and welcome to a special introductory video of the American Hot Rod Association Drag Racing History Channel. Today we have a special guest. We have Jim Hall, who was a team member from the Golden Commandos during the heydays of the evolution of Funny Car. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Well, we're doing great. I know we have been kind of trying to put this together for a couple of weeks, and just things did not meet up. My schedule with the AHRA was screwing things up, and I'm glad we actually had the opportunity to get you on here for an interview.
Well, I am too.
Well, Tony and I had been doing the evolution of Funny Cars, which was it turned into a 4-part series because the evolution happened so fast in such a short period of time. But luckily, you were one of the men that got to live the era and fight the impending evolution that happened so quickly, and try to keep up with the game. So I guess, where did things begin for you, Jim?
Well, they actually began for us in the '65 winter. Considered what you consider a funny car. They have what they call the 2% cars, which was actually, they moved the wheels a little bit. They were legal AFX cars for NHRA, which we ran at the '65 Winter Nationals at both AHRA and NHRA.
Okay.
Now, they actually had that same 2% car the year before, but Al Extran stole ours. So we got a Hemi 2-door hardtop, which was the only one in existence.
Okay, well, you guys ran the 2% cars then at the Winter Nationals for the NHRA, and
yes.
then that same year when you guys went to Beeline, which would have been the next event, correct?
Beeline was first. NHRA was 2 weeks later.
Okay.
When we ran the car at Beeline, we had some problems with our car. We ran 2 runs at the NHRA Winter Nationals at Pomona, and Chrysler took the car from us and deemed it unsafe.
Really?
Our car was taken back, and we got acid dipped too much.
Oh, too thin.
Yeah, and they took it back and crushed it and made a new body for us and sent it to us, which we made the 1015 altered wheelbase car for, and the Ram Chargers made their 215 car out of their 2% car.
Oh, okay. So their body was probably a little less acid dipped than yours, huh?
Yeah, wasn't in it quite as long. Maybe ours was the first, or maybe the last. We don't know.
Right. Wait, yours was a Friday car, maybe.
It might have been.
Right. Well, how did things go from there? Once you guys did the Winter Nationals, I know that for about a 6-year period, the Golden Commandos were high in the game when it came to altered wheelbase, AFX, and Funny Car. Can you kind of explain on how that all rolled out for you guys?
Well, the main thing that rolled out for us is the people that were in the Golden Commandos, except for myself and a couple of engineers for Chrysler, were the people that ran the dynamometers, run the transmission shop, and were the actual mechanics that did the work that the engineers, which were the Ram Chargers, figured out.
Okay.
Like John Dallafor was in the transmission lab and made all the transmission things. Forrest Petcock ran the dynamometers and different things like that. But where we learned the stuff actually before, or maybe a little bit better than the Ram Chargers, because they actually did it, not figured it out.
Right. Oh, so theirs was a lot of it was theory based, and you guys were kind of like practical application of the new stuff.
Right.
Okay. Well, what was the very first Golden Commandos car that you were involved with?
The very first car that I was involved with was actually the number 5 car, which is a '64 2-door hardtop, but it was bought by a car dealership from the Golden Commandos that I recommended and I drove.
Okay. Well,
and then I came to Golden Commandos in the spring or real early part of '65 when they went to the 1015 car and we raced it all over the country for 2 seasons.
Okay. But did you guys do any match racing with that car?
Oh, we did a lot of match racing with that car. We ran Nicholson many times. We ran, I can't think of his name, that had the one with the chopped the top off of it. In fact, actually, what we did is we either match raced the car primarily or went to the big meets. Like we won the first Super Stock National meet in York, Pennsylvania. We won an overall in it. And the second meet, we won our class, 2,700 pound class in it.
Okay.
And
What was
we went to all the big meets. If we didn't have a big meet coming up that we had to go to, we had a match race.
Well, I'm sure, and there was huge differences between the cars when you're talking about legal class racing and then match racing, correct?
Oh, very, very. In fact, 1015 cars were not legal in NHRA, period.
Okay. It was just AHRA events that allowed the.
Well, they were NHRA events we could run them in, but we could run them at match races at NHRA tracks.
I was wondering what was the big differences that you guys, I mean, everyone already knew, like, you go match race and you generally throw a stroker motor in there, but what was the other big things that that people may not be aware of what you threw out there for a match race car versus the class legal cars?
Well, the match race car was a complete different car, wheelbase wise. The engine was stock cubic inches, but we used 100% nitromethane and maybe 1 or 2 ounces of hydrazine and things like that that you couldn't run if you're running a stock car.
Right. No, especially for class racing, they weren't going to allow hydrazine. So.
Oh, they don't. In fact, they outlawed it when. An interesting story. A person from one of the manufacturers that we competed against had left some in his glove compartment at Capitol Raceway Park, and it got so warm in there, it blew up and blew the car up through the trees.
Oh, wow. And it's
top of the trees off the car.
And this is the era of which pretty much the gloves are off, anything goes.
Yeah.
Hydrazine was
Run.
what was, if we were going to break it down, what was more or less like jet fuel, correct?
No, it's rocket fuel.
Rocket fuel, okay. And they did call that H, right? That was the green flames.
That's right.
Okay. Now, how long did they last on running hydrazine?
Well, we in 2 years' time, we were lucky enough that we only blew 2 engines. Yep, and one of them was a darn 5-cent valve keeper broke and came off and swallowed a valve.
Oh, well, yeah, that'll pretty much do it on any fuel. So, all right. Well, and how long were you with the Golden Commandos for?
2 years.
2 years, and I'm
2
sure
years.
that was a whirlwind of one event after the next, after the next, after the next. Correct?
Very much so. If you get home on maybe Sunday night and get the car ready to go again by Tuesday. In fact,
wow.
we crashed the car end over end at Capitol Raceway in Washington, D.C. on a Sunday, brought the car back and had it ready for a match race the following Sunday.
Oh, so a whole week of thrashing?
Yeah, the car went unpainted, but it went end over end twice at Capitol Raceway when the left motor mount broke. But the car was ready for the race the next week unpainted. It was painted, then brought back and painted. Then I took the car on a trip. It was lettered in Wichita, Kansas. Just different wherever we stopped, we got part of it done to it to bring it back where it was supposed to be, the way the car looked.
Okay. Well, and so you were there for, I guess you said the 64 car, which would have been, was that the 2% car or was that 65?
65 was 2% car. The 64 car was the only 2-door hardtop Hemi.
Okay. All right. And then, so in that 2-year period that you were with them, the car went from virtually a stock car and then to your 2% car. And then you guys had the absolute altered wheelbase car, right?
Yes, we did. And
Okay.
then in first part of 67, we had a Barracuda funny car before the Barracudas were even come down the production line. Chrysler gave us all the body panels and we riveted them together and made a funny car out of a 67 Barracuda.
Okay. Now this was a flip top car?
The front part flipped to get to the engine and that, but the back body was standard. It was a metal car when it first came out.
Okay.
It came out before the Barracudas were even produced.
Right. Okay. So how competitive was it for against, like, see, if that was 67, because 67 you could have had a lot of stuff going on in 67. How competitive was it against, like, say, the Mercuries, like the Jack Christman's Mercury?
It could run. We outrun them, and they outrun us. We outrun the Mercuries pretty much until they put the injectors on top of the flip-top cars and put the blowers on them.
Oh, when they went wrong.
Yeah, we could compete with them till then, but then after that, there was no comparison.
Right.
So that's when Chrysler decided to give up funny cars and just go back to stock cars.
Okay, so then it was back to super stock and stock eliminator, and then I'm
Right.
sure that's probably when they went kind of all in on their package deals, right? Like their D darts and stuff like that.
Right, they did, and they had people like Ronnie Socks and people like that running the cars. The Golden Commandos' big mistake is we thought we wanted to continue match racing, which Chrysler didn't want to allow. They would give parts and that, but they cut us off after 67 when they wanted to give us two super stock cars.
Okay. Did you guys go back super stock racing then?
No, did not. Chose not to. Just the Golden Commandos folded in 68, just sold everything, got rid of everything.
Okay. All right. Well, then your factory teams, like from, because you guys were you were the equivalent comparison of like the Ram Chargers, but you weren't the engineer group, correct?
Right. We were the Plymouth division, and the Ram Chargers were the Dodge division. The Ram Chargers, most of them were engineers. Most of our people were the actual workers that did the stuff that they designed.
Okay. All right. Well, and you said you used to haul the car around to every event and qualify for them, correct?
Yeah. Every event that the 10-15 car went to, I went to.
Okay. And then did you guys have a nice ramp truck supplied by Chrysler at the time?
We had a four-door pickup. We had a four-door pickup truck that we could carry all the tires and all that stuff in. Real nice car and real good trailer. I got stopped at one time I was going, there's a big bridge that goes up in Louisiana, someplace by New Orleans. And I outrun a highway patrolman going up the bridge.
Hauling the car?
Hauling the car. And when he caught me, he pulled me over and I wouldn't leave because I wouldn't leave the car. And they called on the telephone and made bail for me and that, and then they paid the tickets. You know what it was.
Well, and so I take it you hauled all over the country then, right?
Yes, all over the United States.
Did you have any idea how many miles a month or how many miles per year you guys have put on those tow rigs to meet all the events?
No, I'd have.
The only reason I ask is that I think a lot of people, and especially maybe our viewers, they don't really have a comprehension of how often you guys were gone or how much you were going. And that's one thing that I try to explain to people, that even with our small AHRA startup, I do about 5,000 miles a month from March to October. And people have a hard time comprehending that.
Oh, we put at least 10, 15,000 miles a month on the truck.
I don't doubt that, especially if the amount of dates that you guys would have made, because you could have raced at that period almost 7 days a week if you wanted.
But there was a lot of times that we would race, say, Friday night one place, Saturday night one place, and Sunday one place, 3 different places.
Right. And then you would go out probably 2 days worth of thrashing and then test and tune on a Wednesday or Thursday and then back at it on the weekend, right?
Primarily the test and tune was on Tuesday because Chrysler rented the track at Detroit, and we had the cars out there plus a mule car that Roger Render was the main driver of. I drove it, and everybody drove it. But an interesting story on that, we was talking about the hydrazine,
right,
and how powerful it is. Well, we found out by Roger on this one. We made a run with hydrazine. Roger did. So we did a couple other changes to the car and went to start the motor, and just heard a little bing, opened up, and it blew up. The whole inside of the motor was laying down inside the pan. Had to take the spark plugs out to get the hydrazine out of it. From then on, before you could start it, or you blow up the whole inside. The pistons, rods, everything laying down the oil pan.
Well, and that was just
cylinders.
That was from starting it on hydrazine?
It was trying to start it on hydrazine. It blew up. It never started.
Right. And that's Roger Lindemood of like the Color Me Gone fame, right?
Color Me Gone car, yeah. Well,
right. Okay.
We all drove the test car. This is just a plain old ordinary $10, $15 wheelbase car that the Chrysler, we called it the Mule.
Right.
We used for testing at Detroit every Tuesday.
Huh. And this is where you guys would apply the practical application of the theories that the engineers had come up with during that week.
Unless we thought we wanted to put them on our car first.
Okay. So all right. Now, did you guys get like, if you were on the road, did you ever get letters saying, okay, we found out this is a mandatory fix, you got to do this, add weight to the front of the car, or pull these panels off, they're not good, or anything like that? I'm not entirely sure how things would have went while you were on the road.
No, primarily if we were on the road, if there was something we needed to add to the car or something, they would express it to us.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like
a Western Union delivery?
Like Western Union delivery.
Okay. All right. Well, and I think, is there any interesting stories you'd like to throw out there, Jim, before we start wrapping things up? I know that you're busy living the life down in Mexico, retired, and but I'm sure there's all kinds of interesting stories you'd like to throw out there that our listeners or our viewers would want to see or hear about.
Yeah, there's several of them, but they're hard to remember when you talk, not right now,
Right. Well,
talk about this.
I totally know what you mean, because the second I say, oh yeah, well, if we talk about the doors went away in 67 and they became a flip top car, you're going to remember a story at that point.
Yeah. But, like 67, the car was all one piece car. But we were door slammers in 65 and 66. And, like an interesting story on LX Grand, we won the first Superstock National meet was in 1965 at York, Pennsylvania.
Right.
And we ran Dick Landy for overall winner. And the way we won it was Al Extrand did a wheel stand. And he didn't know how to get it down, so he just left his foot in it, and it just came on down, and we won the race.
Huh. Well, you passed him while the tires were in the air?
Yeah. Passed him while the tires were in the air and came on down. When Al hit second, it started coming down, and when it hit high gear, it was all the way down, and he won the race.
Huh. And Al was you guys' that was your permanent driver, correct?
Well, he was the first part of 66. We inherited Al. In 64, when they first actually came out with the 2% cars, and we were supposed to get one, but Al was a corporate attorney and stole the car from us, where they consequently gave us the only two-door hardtop Hemi car.
Right.
But then Al's boys, Colin, was driving his he had a transporter, and he wrecked his cars. So they took the cars away from Al, fixed them, sold them, and told us that he would be our driver the next year. Well, he drove, I'll say, a third of the races that he decided to show up to. And then when we started really added the fuel and the hydrazine and that stuff to it, really make it go, Al got scared of the car, and John Dallaforth was the main driver.
Okay. Yeah, which is understandable because they were absolute handful at that point when you guys were throwing hydrazine at them and with that short wheelbase.
Oh yeah, they sure were.
All right. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us here, Jim. You know, it's legends like you that are still out there today that make this enjoyable to interview you. Things that, you know, today are not the same. And we'd like to see them go a little bit backwards to where it's more affordable and more friendly to the common racer, you know, and that, you know, is a bygone era of what you lived through, which I'm kind of jealous of. So,
well, true. But see, my first legal drag race was at the AHRA Nationals at Great Bend, Kansas in 1955.
okay.
That was the first one I ever ran legal. I had a 32 Ford 5-window coupe with a 3-carbureted flathead on it, and whatever class it fit in, I don't remember. I ended up taking third in the class. I was in the top 4. And then in 67, I won C-Gas at the AHRA Nationals. And in 63, I won B stock in a one and only of its kind Plymouth. And in 62, I won it in a Pontiac Tempest. I won 3 AHRA National Championship trophies before I went to the Golden Commandos. That's why they wanted me to come up there.
Huh. Well, you're 62. You said you 62. You had a Pontiac Tempest. Was that like a
60? It was a 4-speed, half of a 421 with a big 4-barrel on it. It had the 4-speed cam in it, everything in it. You didn't have hydraulic lifters. Everything was a half of a 421 into a Tempest.
right? Which would have been the Trophy 4, right? The Tempest 4-cylinder.
Tempest 4-cylinder, half of a 421. Yes.
Okay. Well, and that's an interesting
And
motor.
I don't remember what class it was, but I won the Trophy Nationals in it. And in 63, I won it in the one and only. It was real funny in 63. You bought a stock Plymouth with hydraulic valve lifters, 8-to-1 compression, 4-barrel on it, and everything with 305 horsepower.
Okay.
Well, we put in the camshaft to come out of the 426s. We put in 2 4-barrel carburetors. We raised it 12.5-to-1 compression. All the things that the Max Webbs did, and all of a sudden it dropped to 305 horsepower to make B stock for AHRA.
So I'm assuming that's a 383 motor then, right?
It was 383, right?
Okay.
60 over, 392 actually.
Huh. All right. Well, that's an interesting combo, and it was a 4-speed car, huh?
Yeah, 4-speed.
Huh.
4 V10. But we cheated a little bit in it. No, we'll say now, but we had to put a Pontiac 3rd gear and cluster gear and 3rd gear in it. They made for the 421 Pontiac. We put in our transmission because the one the Chrysler made was you power shifted into 3rd gear, you break either the cluster or the 3rd.
Oh, so you had Pontiac parts in there, GM parts in that 833.
In the 63, in the 80s, in the 63 Plymouth, yeah, 383. Good Pontiac parts, but nobody knew that at the time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, Jim, thanks for taking the time to talk to the History Channel and let them know what kind of piece of history you actually are, a living legend.
Thank you very much.
All right.
You're very welcome.
We'll talk to you later, Jim. Thank you for your time.
Okay, goodbye.